Hello, Sonja. Nice to see you.
Hi, Mikael. Good to be here.
Yeah, good. And for people who don't know you, could you just shortly say how you got into complexity and what do you work with?
Sure. So I think informally I got into complexity. When I was still a student, I studied meteorology. So kind of, looking back, I can make the connections to complex, natural systems. But formally, in 2002, I met Professor Dave Snowden. We were both employed by IBM at the time. And he kind of formally introduced me to the ideas and the theory of complexity. And there was an immediate resonance, and I've been working in the field of applied complexity ever since.
Good. And I've seen you, we have contact for a long time, and so 20 years now then. So why should leaders care about complexity now?
Sure. I like to say nowadays when I speak to leaders, it's as if we have all been given a masterclass in complexity over the last 2.5 years. I think even before COVID, people were already starting to realize that they need to pay more attention to complexity, but now it's become even more of an imperative. And I think some of what leaders are really struggling with at the moment is to escape from the narratives from a previous time, the old narratives and also some of the projections onto them. I think we're still a bit trapped in a world where people believe that, leaders have to know the answers and make the right decisions and create clarity. And it's very difficult to escape from that, and to provide enough safety for people to self-organize and to engage with complexity without becoming, what Diego Espinosa calls certainty merchants. And so, I think, knowing how to deal with complexity and becoming complexity fit is becoming, more and more important, not only for leaders, but for everyone.
So the expectation of people for leaders to share clear answers, being certain, coming up with the right answer, having that kind of certainty, and of course, if in complexity it's not possible.
No, and I think sometimes leaders make this, a bit worse for themselves as well. I work with leaders who tell their people, don't come to me with problems, come with solutions. And in complexity, sometimes spending time in the questions and really, I like to refer to it as almost sitting in the fire for a while and to really understand the dynamic patterns that we're dealing with, is so much more important than, trying to come with a solution. It's interesting. I recently was reminded about Peter Sengi's definition of leadership, which he coined as the capacity of a human community to shape its future. Wow. And what I really like about that is, it takes it away from being about the individual leader, but it also is a bit of a challenge, because how do leaders redefine their roles so that they can create an enabling context for that to happen, for a community to shape its future? I find that quite a provocative statement.
Yes. So is that, if you were to summarize, what's kind of the key message you would like to give leaders today?
So I think there's two. I think the first one is it's important to realize that complexity is not new. It can be quite anxiety provoking, or, some people get excited and, they love being in complexity, but we already know how to navigate complexity. If you're a parent, if you live in a city, if you've ever navigated traffic, if you have extended family, you already know how to navigate complexity. So for me, it's important to understand that, we can't simplify it. We can't opt out of it. We can't tame it, but we can navigate it and we can also embrace it. And so I think that's probably, a key message for me is for us to start engaging with complexity in more generative ways and to stop trying to opt out or simplify it.
Oh, yes, interesting. So, and I'm really intrigued about the topic for your talk at Leading Complexity. So it's becoming creators of context. Can you just tell me a bit about what that is and what you hope for the participants to bring with them?
So what I've just become so aware of is, how in complexity, there are, leaders have to navigate multiple roles and functions, and there's these fluid transitions between them. And one of the roles that emerged, quite recently that I'm quite curious about is the role of a curator, and in particular curators of context. So very often, leadership development processes focus on, developing core competencies or capabilities, or, focusing on the individual leader and what they need to be able to do. And I think in complexity, this role of a curator, the ability of a leader to create a context where beneficial emergence can occur, where self-organization can occur. I am busy creating a learning journey around becoming complexity fit. And one of the concepts that we work with there is the notion of being cool in complexity, which is an acronym for 4 meta skills. So being courageous, being open, being observant, and practicing lightness. And so a question for me is, how do leaders, and hopefully this is also a takeaway, how can leaders themselves show up as cool, but then at the same time curate contexts where people can show up as cool, where people can bring their courage, their openness, their observing skills, and practice lightness, bring their imagination and playfulness, etc., to the problems and the challenges that face us. So those are what we'll be exploring is, how do we gain an understanding of emergence? How do we design contexts or curate contexts where emergence can occur? And how does that apply to things like innovation, agility, adaptive cultures, and all of these things that we know that we need in today's business world?
Yeah, so when we talk about curating, often we think about curating content, right? But actually curating the context so that the content can emerge from there and enable people. So that's, I'm really looking forward to your talk in the fall in our Leading Complexity program. Where can people learn more about you?
They can connect with me on LinkedIn. So, just search for Sonja Blignaut. And then also on www.complexityfit.com.
Great, thanks. Looking forward to having you on our program in the fall. Thank you, Sonja.
Thanks, Mikael. Looking forward to being there.